1977, George Lucas formed a legacy.
The Force is with me, and I am with the Force.
Inspired by mythology, his saga has become a passion for many.
Feel the Force around you.
His legend has become our story.
It's true.
One of resistance.
We are the spark that'll light the fire that'll burn the First Order down.
Rebellion.
Rebellion is built on hope.
And redemption.
I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
This is Star Wars Reactions.
Remember, the Force will be with you, always.
Well, hello everybody, and welcome to Star Wars Reactions. We have a show for you today. Of course we have a show for you today. I wouldn't be sitting here talking if I didn't have a show for you today. Holy vey, karabast right off the bat there. We got a great show today. And if this opening is anything like the rest of the show, you will enjoy it. So, my name's Aaron Harris. I'm one of your hosts here, and joining me, he's the Anakin to my Obi-Wan, David Motters. What's up, brother?
Well, I keep thinking we're setting the record for the shortest recording time before a karabast moment. And I thought we did it last week, and maybe we just beat it this week. But no, it's always fun to have some karabast moments, and hopefully the listeners enjoy those. And we're just channeling our inner Zeb from Rebels. But doing good and ready to react, and looking forward to talking about this episode. And I've got a really, hopefully, interesting psychology corner. Again, giving away psychology for free, and that's part of what we're trying to do. And I'm excited to discuss that. And but how you doing, buddy?
Doing good. You know, after setting a record last week, I was like, "Here, hold my blue milk," and decided to try to beat it to this week. So obviously, gotta lay off the Pepsi. No, everything's going good. It's going good. Don't know if you saw it, but I actually did. Went live on Instagram the other night and did the opening of the Obi-Wan Kenobi bust.
Yes.
Gorgeous, Nancy.
Yeah,
it's gorgeous.
Oh man, and I've looked at the pictures too.
Yeah, I cannot believe the detail in this thing. It is absolutely stunning. I mean, it's just, gives me chills looking at it. Yeah.
Well, and it really reminds me of James Arnold Taylor when I look at it. So I can just hear his voice. I went and looked at the pictures. I enlarged, so I kind of did that, expand it, And I love the pictures you took, and just looking at it, and the lightsaber, it's sweet, man.
Oh yeah, I mean the tunic is so textured, it literally looks real, like it should be. When I touch it, it looks like it should be actual fabric. When I touch it, it's not, of course, but it is just that textured that it's just, oh my gosh, whew, stunning.
Nice.
Stunning. So that I was thrilled with that. Once we got it open, it was so yes. So that's up on our social media pages. Was live on Instagram, but you can also see the replay on Instagram, as well as a link to it from Twitter, because it wouldn't let me post the full 6-minute video on Twitter. But it is available on Facebook, so you can go to our new Facebook page and see it there as well. So. Make sure you do that, and if you haven't, give us a like while you're there. We'd appreciate it. Anyhow, and of course, this weekend we're coming up is we're recording this on Monday the 7th. This Sunday weekend coming up is the Central Florida Comic-Con that I will be attending. You'll be heading on vacation. I'll be hanging out at the con. We're just going to have a great weekend, aren't we?
Oh my gosh, like I've told listeners before, I'm bummed. I've been there the last 2 years with you. It's usually in January. I'm thankful they're having it. I wanted to be there with you and the other guys that you're going to record with. I'm pumped that you're going to be there. And on the one hand, I'm bummed I can't be there, because I love walking around cons with you, man. It's just so fun, and just geeking out, And but I just spending time with my wife and my kids is huge. So yeah. So I'd love to be there with you, and at the same time, I'll be spending time with family. And as you and I have always done it, with you and your wife and kids, and me and my wife and kids, we always say that comes first, and then we do Star Wars, right, buddy?
Absolutely. We'll do it. We're gonna have some fun and enjoy the time with your family. Be safe and just enjoy it, man. We all get to do. I'll be doing that at the end of the month, except for mine. Actually, I'm actually leaving the day our show releases,
Okay.
so I actually won't miss recording an episode. Just happened to be how the schedule fell for me, so it works out good. So. All right. Well, we're going to get the show rolling here. There are actually no news. There literally has been no news this past week. It's been very quiet.
Yeah, even Kristen Baver, they were taking off a few, I don't know if it was a few weeks or what, but she did mention that on the Star Wars, or not the, I always want to say the Star Wars show with Andy Gutierrez and
yes.
you know, right, Anthony Carbone. This week in Star Wars. I love watching that 3 to 5 minute show she has, but they've even taken a bit of a break. So yeah, no news from her either.
No news there. The only news coming out of Lucasfilm is that they started production on Indy 5.
Yes.
So actually, somebody actually shared a picture I saw today of Harrison Ford in costume with the fedora with Kathleen Kennedy on set. So it is in full swing. So I wasn't a big fan of the Crystal Skull. It was probably my least favorite of all the indie movies. So I'm just saying I hope they do better.
I'm excited.
Dan, if you're listening, don't kill me on that one.
I know Dan. No, he'll defend it. He's good at defending stuff.
He's a big indie fan. So, but it was, I don't know. Indie is probably my third favorite franchise that I follow. So Indies, I'm excited for that.
Oh, me too. And I hope everything goes well there. I heard Karen Allen was over in London at a convention, and so I think she's in the movie as well. She's back, as the wife of Indy, mother to Mutt, right? Is it Mutt? Yeah, Mutt.
Yeah, but I don't think he's going to be in it though.
Yeah,
he's
okay.
had the actor that played him has had so many issues.
Okay.
And from what I understand, has left Hollywood. So.
Oh, Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah, Shia. I couldn't think of his name. I was just thinking the kid from Transformers.
Me too. I think I'm saying his last name wrong. I think I'm saying
Shia LaBeouf.
But
yeah,
I don't think I've ever gotten his last name correct.
So I don't think anybody ever got his last name correct. So
I've heard a million different pronunciations.
Exactly. So,
yeah.
All right. So let's get the review going. We got a great episode to talk about today. We are talking about the 6th episode of Star Wars The Bad Batch. This episode was entitled Decommissioned. This was written by Nathaniel Villanueva, and it was written by Amanda Rose Munoz. This was released on Friday, not July 4th. Wow, I'm jumping a month ahead.
Karabast.
Now, only thing going through my head is the Back in Time by Huey Lewis and the News. I'm hitting every franchise except for Star Wars tonight. What's up with that?
Oh my goodness.
See how many others I can get by the end of the show. So
a lot.
What you talking about with us in here? All right. So Decommissioned, good episode. In Decommissioned, Clone Force 99 is quote unquote hired by Sid to pull a job stealing a tactical droid. They end up infiltrating a droid destruction plant on Corellia, where, as things always go for them, things just don't go as planned. They're surprised by another set of thieves, who surprisingly are the Martez sisters, Trace and Rafa, from Season 7 of the Clone Wars, who also are wanting the tactical droid for someone who is, quote-unquote, fighting against the Empire. During their struggle, the alarm gets triggered, droid police are summoned, and the Martez sisters and the Bad Batch have to fight their way to safety. There we go. Nice little synopsis, little bow on it. So let's jump into our initial thoughts. David, what did you think of this episode when you first sat down and watched it?
Yeah, I was surprised by the reveal of Trace and Rafa. I did not expect that. I wasn't even thinking about them. In Season 7 of the Clone Wars last year, you and I covered those episodes. I have to admit, I did enjoy Trace more than Rafa. And that still holds true in this episode. I understand Trace is more innocent, while, Rafa is more hardened, street smart and stuff like that. But what I did earlier today was I went back to our show notes for those 4 episodes. And I was going to look, if people remember, the shows were Gone with a Trace, Deal No Deal, Dangerous Debts, and Together Again. And I wanted to look at those to kind of see what you and I talked about. And it was a 4-episode arc, and it was clear that you and I struggled with it being in there with 12 episodes left. They're building up to the biggest ending for the Clone Wars, and we weren't quite sure, why is that all in there? But I went back again, like I said, and read the notes, and I could see that Dave Filoni spent time explaining why he wanted these episodes in there. He wanted the contrast between, like, say, Ahsoka being in the Jedi Temple, contrasted with Rafa and Trace's life as everyday working people and how they are out of touch. It did lead to some really interesting questions that you and I posed in terms of, the Jedi, or even in today's world, the people of faith. How in touch are they with everyday people? And so they ended up being deeper, than I think I initially thought they were. But I think, Dave Filoni's explanation really helped me to enjoy those more. So it was good to see them. It was good to see them. They've got the character models, so there you go. I have to say this, not only seeing them, I love the opening shot of seeing Ord Mantell last episode, but this episode, it was just beautiful aerial shots. I love seeing Ord Mantell. And then when they flew into Corellia in this episode, loved it. And it so reminded me of the shots of Corellia. In fact, in the episode guide, I went through all of it earlier today. They talk about how they really modeled these shots on the shots from Solo. And I think it just blends so beautifully between this animated show and what they showed us with Solo. So just really cool. Love those shots. The battle in action inside that plant on Corellia was so fast-paced. I honestly had some trouble tracking all of them. Wait, is that Rafa in the suit? Is that Trace? Is that where's Echo? Where's, Hunter and all that stuff? I knew where Wrecker was up there, hitting his head again. But that didn't mean I didn't like it, or that's a complaint. It was so cool. I love the visuals, and again, seeing it on a big screen and just looking at all the battle droids and super battle droids being melted into smelted, I guess, or whatever. Just so cool to see. So I thought it was great to see all that, and they packed a lot into. This was a little bit shorter than the other episodes so far, but they packed a lot in, and I really enjoyed it, buddy.
Very good, very good. Yeah, I enjoyed the episode too. When I sat down and I first watched it, and it got off to a good start. And I do have to say this: bravo, bravo for throwing me a curveball that I could not have predicted. to save my life. I never would have guessed the Martez sisters would have shown back up. And the thing is, it was a pleasant surprise, but although it really shouldn't have surprised me. What's the one thing I always say when it comes to these to episodes like this or things like the Martez? There's no such thing as filler. Everything is there for a reason. And the Martez sisters back in season 7, like you mentioned in your opening, we questioned why it was there, and which obviously meant they were meant for more than those 4 episodes. And hopefully this is the beginning where we get to see what they're involved in, whether it's more through the Bad Batch or whether we now start seeing them showing up in comics or even in a book or 2. I don't know. But the fact that they're there and they're involved with somebody, quote unquote, fighting the Empire, against the Empire, my gut tells me that there's going to be a twist in it somewhere. That it's not, they're not going to be, my gut, well, that we're getting into speculation at that point, so I'm not going to go there. But my gut tells me it's not what we think, it's not what they hinted that it is going on. So that's a separate discussion there. The action in this episode was awesome. This felt like a Clone Wars episode. We had clones blasting droids. Granted, they were police droids. They weren't the battle droids. They ended up getting helped by reprogrammed battle droids. But it felt like the Clone Wars, clones versus clankers. And it was great. Matt Wood coming back and voicing the battle droids was just perfect. I really, really enjoyed. Echo, man, dude is killing me with his comedy, dude. I tell you, Echo is really stepping it up for me. He's taken over as my favorite from Wrecker with the way he's dropping his one-liners. And then of course, but overall, man, this thing was great. I really enjoyed it. So there we go. All right. Well, looking at our talking points, let's go ahead and jump into those. Right off the bat, we can't. Let's talk about Sid sending the Bad Batch on this mission, because there never was a agreement for them to work together, as Hunter pointed out. But basically, Sid backs him into a corner. What else you gonna do? You're 100 people. You're going to work for me, and sends them on this mission, and basically threatens them. You're wanted people. What your word of where you are getting out. She's not really, the nicest person. She's like a mean version of Vizago. With Vizago and Rebels, we knew he'd make threats, but you knew he wouldn't follow up on them. He just didn't have the courage to. Whereas she, I have a feeling she would throw him under the bus for a half day's portion. So, what do you think of how they ended up on this job, David?
Yeah, it was interesting to see them right back on Ord Mantell. I mean, and right back in, they're calling it Sid's parlor, right, in the episode guide. And, yeah. There was nice continuity there. At the end, Hunter was not, of the last episode, Hunter was not committed to working for her. And same thing at the beginning of this one. When I think about Sid, when she sends them in the last episode to go get a baby Rancor and they do it, she knows she's got gold right now working for her. She knows they can pull off some really big jobs. And so for her, just like you said, I think she would. Unlike Vizago, I think she'd throw him under the bus for a bigger payday. That's what it feels like. And but right now, I think we're safe because she sees that there's nobody else like these guys to be able to go do these jobs that I need, to get a baby Rancor, to get this tactical droid, and they come back and no worse for the wear, and everything is kept hush hush. She's not going to turn him in right now, but I'm with you. She's gonna she would turn in a minute, but I think they've got no other choice. They need money, they need friends, she said, but they need money more than friends. Mm-hmm. So we'll see him probably do some more jobs.
Oh, I got a feeling we'll see him do a lot more jobs for her, unfortunately. So we'll see how that plays out. She's definitely an interesting character. And we see while they're there, before she shows up and sends them on the job, Omega is learning how to use that laser bow caster thingy that she picked up in the last episode.
Yes.
And she is not that good. She's learning how to use it. I'll give her that. She's trying. And they're helping her out. And I think it was great. We had the bar patrons off to the side, placing bets on whether or not she'd blow the next shot. Right. And then, of course, like any child, and this is where I liked Omega in this episode, because like any child, she's like, I hit 3. I'm good. I hit 3. And Echo had to snap her back in reality, going, yeah, out of 12. Right. You hit 3 out of 12. That's luck. That's not skill. It's not consistency. Soldiers have to be consistent, he says. Which then, again, they take her on a dangerous mission. Again, I have to ask why. Mm-hmm. Why are they taking this child into these dangerous places?
Well, I know. Well, they go into the smelting plant, and Hunter tells her to stay up top, and not too bad to be up there with Wrecker and stuff like that. But yes, I think we're going to have to, because she is part of the squad, have to, I think, do what I've mentioned before, and it's a suspension of disbelief, right? This is where, no, you wouldn't take a child her age into this kind of smelting plant where you can fall and drop and get burned and lava and all that kind of stuff. But that's the only approach I can take, is just kind of suspension of disbelief.
Yeah, it definitely is. You have to suspend your belief at that point, because it's it's just not. I don't know. I it's still one of the issues I have with the series. And since we're talking about issues with the series, where's Crosshair, man?
Oh,
this is the 3rd episode. No Crosshair.
Yeah. He must be sitting in his bunk on Camino.
Hey, what's he doing? Drowning his blues in blue milk?
I know, and I hear the Star Wars fans wanting to see him. I guess 2 more episodes will be halfway, and I think we're going to really see that as a turning point, and him really start coming in with that elite squad, and really the tension amping up.
Well, that's what we're hearing. At least I know Joel Aaron commented on Twitter yesterday, I believe it was, about somebody commenting on the newest episode, and he pretty much said, you ain't seen nothing yet. The second half of the season is nonstop. I'm paraphrasing, but so apparently there's going to be a lot more action to come. So
nice.
We'll have to see. The tactical droid. It was fun seeing another tactical droid, wasn't it?
It was.
Though it's just a head.
Oh, I loved it. Well, it was detached from the body. When Omega is looking down, Omega, when she's looking down with her binoculars, she actually did serve that function. She found it, and the head was detached from the body, right near the body. And but I do like how you put that in the show notes. Is that the same one used by the Ghost Crew to find Rex? I like how they used it there. I loved how they're bringing this in, meaning that this is incredibly valuable to people. I would think, gosh, if you think about this, Aaron, this kind of data would be very. I would think I'm surprised Tarkin, isn't grabbing every maybe he's already got a tactical droid, head, and has analyzed it, right? Because obviously him and the Emperor, own all the droids and all these plants and stuff, but if you're Saw Gerrera or any of the rebels, it's critical to know how to defeat clone troopers. And if you're Tarkin and you don't want them around anymore, it'd be critical data to have. So this, I thought, was a really, really cool plot point.
It really was, and I it's, if it is the one that ends up being given to the Ghost Crew to find Rex, it's got to be from a different source, because the head never made it on board the ship with them, because he got blasted out of her hands and blasted away. It gives you the impression that it may have been destroyed, but we don't see that. So with Star Wars, if we don't see it blow up, chances are it may not have blown up. It still could end up in the hands of the Ghost Crew. We don't know. But yeah, it's there, and it was definitely an interesting plot point. It was good to see, because it was one thing I always wondered about too, is what happened to the droids after the Clone Wars was over. You have all these millions of battle droids marching through the galaxy. What's happening with them?
Right.
And now we find out they're being melted down and destroyed, so they can't be used again. And it was cool to see the planet, and it had a very droid factory, Geonosis droid factory feel to it, with the way things were running. You had the droids hanging up on the racks, being taken around the building and dropped on conveyor belts, and it was pretty cool. I had fun seeing that factory.
Absolutely. I love that. It's very much episode 2, and of course in the visual guide, they show a picture of C-3PO in the Geonosian factory that we see him there in R2 in episode 2. Mm-hmm. And it was the picture that they have in the episode guide at StarWars.com was very interesting, because it's kind of like, here you see Geonosis and the creation of all of them, and now here's a decommissioning plant on Corellia, melting them all down. My gosh. But of course, the Emperor and Tarkin and the whole Imperial upper echelon don't want anybody to be able to use them at any point against. So I'm really liking seeing these events after episode 3.
Oh, absolutely. So have I. And it's because it's stories that we needed to know. It's stuff we haven't been told before. It's we're all learning new stuff, like what happened to the droids. So, and what happened to the clones. So yeah, it's very, very cool. Trace and Rafa, they're the big surprise for the episode. Well, one of the big surprises for the episode. But Trace and Rafa showing up again in the episode, that was, like I said, it caught me off guard, and it shouldn't have surprised me. They are definitely made for more than what they were given in the Clone Wars. So it shouldn't have surprised me that they showed up. And I've gotten some mixed reviews on it too. Several of my friends are like, oh gosh, this was our least favorite episode because we don't like those two. It was okay, but the episode was okay, but it had our least 2 favorite characters in there. And I respect that. And they're definitely an interesting pair for sure. And how did you feel about Trace and Rafa showing back up, David? Let's just start with that.
Well, yeah, and that's why I went back to our show notes. I was like, how did we cover this? I read all of them. I read all 4 show notes. I'm so glad that we're doing it the way we've been doing it. I just accessed them very quickly and read, and and Filoni, again, I'll go back to Filoni's argument. He wanted to contrast, what the Jedi were doing in the Jedi Temple. It's not just, a Palpatine trying to badmouth the Jedis, Emperor Palpatine after Order 66 and so on. But, he wanted us to see the everyday people. And Filoni, I was looking, he wrote that episode, him and someone Murray. I should have written them both down, but that initial episode, Without a Trace. And I get that. I get it. And the contrast and the Jedi being out of touch and so on. And but I do like seeing them come back around, and obviously my hope is that, particularly considering the end of the episode, I hope that, like, let's see, it's Rafa's the older one. She said, in the end, everyone has to choose sides. And I hope it's the case that because of Ahsoka's influence on them last year, and you and I talked about that at length, about that, and of course I love Ahsoka and Ashley Eckstein and all that. You hope that has led to positive changes in both of them, and that when everything is said and done, that they have really chosen to help the rebellion, fledgling rebellion, and choose the good guys and be a part of that. And I hope that it's ultimately because of what Ahsoka did for them.
Very good. Very good. You're right. And it was Charles Murray.
Charles Murray. I knew it was a Murray. I thought McMurray. Wait, Murray. Thank you. Thank you, Brian.
You're welcome. Charles Murray wrote those with Dave in the original season 7. Trace and Rafa are a unique pair. The orphans, and I'm more curious to what they're doing now. I mean, it was great to see them. Their action was good. They fought good, but in Trace's interactions, or Rafa's interactions with Omega, definitely showed some growth from where she was in season 7. But I'm curious to what they're doing now, because all they specified was that they're working for somebody who is against the Empire, working against the Empire. Which, everybody immediately jumps to the conclusion, okay, they're working for the rebellion. They're working for Bail Organa. They're working for the hidden figure at the end of the episode that they're communicating to is Ahsoka, or it's Bail Organa, or it's Saw Gerrera. And everybody's speculating on that now. But like I said, and we don't speculate. We don't do that kind of stuff. We go with the facts that as they're given. But I have to say, I don't think that's the direction that, personally, I don't feel that's who they're working for. I don't think they're working for the rebellion or the new rebellion.
It's worse, yeah.
Because who was the one person against the Empire? Who is another person that would want to see the downfall of the Empire?
It's Maul.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Who were they more comfortable working for? Cartels.
Right. And they're against the Empire. So it doesn't, that's what leaves this open. That's the added layer of mystery. So I'm with you. This is the more important, more interesting part, right, to trace. Mm-hmm. Is who are they working for?
And wasn't Crimson Dawn in that original season 7 episode?
Mm-hmm.
So that's my pick. That's where I think it's headed. That's who I think they were. I think there's going to be a Crimson Dawn connection, not a rebellion connection. I speculated. I'm sorry.
I know. You couldn't fight it off, man.
I could. This was just one of those things that I just could not. I had to say something because all day today, all I was seeing was discussions about Bail Organa being the hologram, or it being Ahsoka, and no, it can't be Ahsoka because of the Ahsoka novel. No, they're going to retcon this and they're going to retcon that. It doesn't have to be retconned. Nobody has to retcon anything. It doesn't have to be any of them. It can go out in the left field. They could be a cartel. I mean, you just don't know until it actually happens. That's why I try to resist the speculation bug. But yeah, so I couldn't resist. I had to say something and at least get my 2 cents in before it actually happens. So.
And I do, and I'm with you. I enjoy other Star Wars podcasts and look at Twitter and I've so far so good. Hopefully Twitter stays good, and I've enjoyed tweeting with you and other Star Wars people all across the country, and it's been very positive. I haven't gotten into anything negative, and I'm going to avoid all that. But yeah, I've seen people just having fun with it, just saying, "Who is it? Who is it?" And that can be fun. And everyone has some. I felt like some people had some really good arguments for all the different options that are out there. So why not, right? Life is short. Let's just have some fun. We're enjoying our Star Wars episodes. There we go.
Exactly. There we go. So, all right. So what we're going to do real quick, we are going to take a quick break. We're going to take a drink of water, take a break. When we come back, we are going to continue through our final talking points, our final thoughts, then an all new psychology corner. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. Aaron and David here, talking Decommissioned, Bad Batch, episode number 6. We're going to continue on through our talking points here. Let's talk about the comedic elements of the episode, because there was a lot of comedic elements in this episode, which ended up kind of breaking the tension per se. They used to do that a lot during Resistance, where they would have this big tense situation going on, and all of a sudden Niku would do something absolutely nuts and break the tension. And they did that all throughout this episode, where it was whether it was the guys at the beginning, which I mentioned, the bar people, bar patrons, or my personal favorite in the middle of the firefight, where they say Rafa says Trey says she needs a distraction, and they're like, a distraction? He's like, what is this? Is there an Echo here? And all of a sudden Echo's like, I'm Echo, what do you need? Like, wait, what? My name's Echo. Oh, well, I need a distraction. Okay, no problem. Like, okay. That was absolutely the best scene to me, the best laugh I'd gotten out of an episode in a while. That was just absolutely priceless.
And I'll say this, not only that, writing that, but the way the animators animated Trace's face, like, really? Oh, wow. Oh, geez. Okay. I think of Keith Kellogg, right?
Yeah.
Head of the animation there under Filoni for, Clone Wars and so on and so forth. And so the way they did her face, it fit perfectly with Echo's responses. But they're needed, and that it's such a classic part of Han Solo and Chewbacca and the comedy. I was just thinking the other day about an older Harrison Ford as Han again inside of that freighter when the Guavian Death Gang is coming on, and I'm trying to think of the other ones. There's two,
yeah,
right? Oh,
yeah,
the Kanja Club, and the Guavian Death Gang, and like, I think, what was it? I can't remember the line, but like Harrison is.
Have I ever not paid you?
Right.
What was the second time?
Exactly. He's trying to count on his fingers. Just like loving it. And so it's always been a part of Star Wars, and Harrison brought it into sequel trilogy as well. And it just, and obviously with C-3PO and R2 and Chewbacca and all the funny stuff they do. And so, yes, it's a core part of Star Wars. So, and I think it's good storytelling, good tension, but there's also the comedic moments just to make you laugh.
Oh, absolutely, and it worked out good. Then the whole scene with Wrecker having to challenge his fear of heights, to swing across the molten pit of melted droids to reactivate the system so they can escape. When he runs up there and he looks, first he out of his mouth, he's like, "Oh," just that grunt, this wicked grunt.
Yeah.
But yeah, they did a good job with the comedic elements in the episode, which I enjoyed. But since I mentioned Wrecker already, let's talk Wrecker. Wrecker's got me scared, man.
Oh yeah.
After he knocked his head after that swing, and he passes out there on the ground, he's holding his head, and then it starts up, "Good soldiers follow orders," and it starts coming out, and his chip's waking up. His chip is starting to wake up, it seems, and at this point, Order 66 is over. So what do you think would possibly happen now with that? I mean, again, that's calling for speculation, so I'll check that. But the possibilities of what could happen with that chip coming back online is insane. We see what it did to Crosshair.
Right.
Wrecker is, he's the power. He's the. I don't want to say he's a big lovable dummy, but he is. Yeah. He doesn't have. He's like the Scarecrow. If I only had a brain. He doesn't think through a lot. It's like Hulk smash. See, I got Marvel in this time. And he's very. I don't see him being able to interpret well, rationalize well between it. What are your thoughts on, I know you have them, on Wrecker and his chips, especially after this episode, because I know you've been talking about it for weeks, you were concerned about his noggin there.
Yeah. Well, I need to do a psychology corner on TBI, traumatic brain injury. We need to do one with Wrecker as the spotlight. We'll see how it plays out, and maybe I can bring some stuff in on TBI. I'm going to cover a different subject in this one, ADHD, and so hopefully our listeners will enjoy that. But I had several thoughts on this. Like you said, mostly speculation. But I guess maybe I'll do this without speculating, because, like we said, we want to try to make sure we're good on this. I'll say this: it's adding layers. They're, like you said, no filler episodes. They're using each of these to add on. I've mentioned this in previous ones, bringing Fennec Shand in. We don't know who she's being paid by. Sid. The tension there, at the end of last session, what is she going to do? But over the last several ones, we've really, they've been just, there's no curveballs here. They're just throwing us, it's as obvious as possible that Wrecker's head is having problems. So I think it's they're doing it to increase the tension and the worry, and maybe, like what you mentioned a few minutes ago, Aaron, that quoting Joel, Aaron, that the second half will really amp up, and I'm curious to see if Wrecker is, helping Crosshair, or who he turns on, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot to be teased out here, and but I like it. I'm interested. Like I said, I'm curious to see what he does.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's I really hate to see anything happen to him because he's like I said, he's one of my favorites, and him having issues and turning against him could be devastating with what he can do with just his sheer brute strength. I mean, he bench presses a gonk droid with one hand. I mean, what he's gonna make a mess if things go wrong. So, couple more highlights for the episode. I don't know if you noticed the astromech droid that the Martez sisters had.
Yeah, I'm trying to piece together though, my brother, because you and I covered all of the season 7 episodes. I remember, A7, R7. I just don't know, how did he get off the Star Destroyer, as it was coming down?
I don't know.
I got it.
And that's what I don't get, and which is why people are arguing that Ahsoka is there.
Oh yes, I see what you're saying.
That's part of their argument, is that's how he would have got off of there. Ahsoka would have rescued him out of the wreck, which would explain why at one point he was in pieces. And
why people would say it's Ahsoka Tano in the hologram, because they're like, well, she gave them this astromech to keep in contact. Yeah,
exactly. So who knows? But yeah, they have Ahsoka's astromech. They have A7. So I thought that was a nice little nod there. Whether it plays into the episode or not, the series or not, I won't know, but we'll find out soon. There was, I'm going to, this will probably be a very unpopular opinion about the voice. So if you don't agree with what I say, my name is David. You can email me, David at Star Wars. Oh, just kidding.
Wow, I can feel the weight of the bus all over me.
No, I'm just kidding. No, and I felt like this is something I felt actually back during the early season 1 of Rebels too. We have a show. We have it based on characters that we're supposed to be telling new stories about. And now all of a sudden, in this massive, huge galaxy where they're supposed to be on the run, we're running into everybody and their mother. The Martez sisters, Fennec Shan, Cut LaCane, Bib Fortuna. Granted, they went and sought out Cut, and they went and sought out. They did seek out. They sought out Sid, but why is it that we are now starting this in all these we're in episode 6, and we've had 4 characters, previously established characters, showing up in the series. It almost, to me, feels like they're, well, I mean, it almost feels like to me they're worried that the series can't carry itself unless they bring in these other characters. And I struggle with that, because as soon as they stopped bringing in those characters in Rebels is when the series flew. Because they were the first season. Lando, Leia, 3PO and R2 and Bail. They just back to back coming right in. And it's like, okay. But then once they then they brought in Ahsoka. Okay, why Ahsoka? But that's when the series really took off. But you actually got to see it wasn't focused on those other characters. It was focused on the main cast. And I'm struggling with the fact that here we are again. We got a new series. We got a group of people, clones on the run. We got one of them that's a turncoat that's supposed to be hunting them, who we haven't seen in 3 episodes, but yet we're getting more people from the Clone Wars. We're getting somebody from the movies. We're getting somebody from the Mandalorian, all crossing over into their path. And it just, to me, doesn't seem necessary. And I just feel that, I don't know, I'm struggling with that.
Well, what I was thinking about, brother, is this is episode 47, but back in episode 42, for the premiere, we had Jason Fry on, Star Wars writing legend. And I don't know if they listen to that episode, they can go back and listen to that, but he made the same comment that you made when it came to seeing Caleb Doom, there. He felt like it worked. He said, but it could have worked without him there, and that was one of the, things that Jason said, that he kind of, again, he gets it. But he says it starts to feel like a really small universe. But like he said, ultimately it worked having Caleb Doom there with his master Depa Billaba. But I see why you're saying it, because here's Jason Fry, who's a writer, and of course he thinks that way. I mentioned that in the episode. I think like a psychologist. I'm not necessarily thinking of storylines all the time, and who do you use, who do you not use. But I do wonder if, maybe back to what you said, Aaron, if the writers are going to take the same approach. They bring these characters in, and maybe, if there's a second season, third season, they're not going to really do that as much. Maybe follow the same formula as Rebels.
Yeah, could be. I hope so. It definitely is something I would like to see. Is less of, don't get me wrong, it's good sometimes to see these characters, and it was good to see Fennec, and I was fine with cutting Bib, but just the constant pouring on of extra, and the thing is, it's not over, because we know we're going to see Rex at some point.
Right, I thought we would have seen him by now, but no, not yet. Yeah. So
he's coming, so we know he's coming. We saw him in the previews and the trailer, so we know he's coming. But at that point, you got to start asking who else is coming. At that point, if we see, with the way they're going, are we going to end up seeing Gregor and Wolf as well? Who knows? So anyway, that was just my unpopular opinion, that I think they need to, focus on Bad Batch stories instead of bringing in other characters that we've already seen and established.
Understood.
So there we go. All right. Anything else you wanted to hit on before we went into our final thoughts, David?
Oh, just that Wrecker, his fear of heights. I've heard, a few different shows talking about it, and I don't think they remembered last year. We covered it, right? It was that on the Wings of Karadax. It was one of the episodes, and that's when we first learned of his fear of heights. So just a little side note, that it wasn't the first time seeing Wrecker afraid of heights.
Oh, no. That was well established in season 7 of Clone Wars. Yeah. When they're walking across that real thin, super high. Yeah, no, that's definitely not his first fear there. So, all right. So with that closes out our talking points. We're going to go into our final thoughts on Star Wars: The Bad Batch, Episode 6, Decommissioned. All right. Well, I'll go ahead and kick things off here. Overall, I thought it was a good episode. It was awesome. I enjoyed it a lot. Enjoyed the action, the clones blasting droids again. How can you go wrong and not enjoy that? I thought it was great. Trace and Rafa, even though, I'm not a fan of them bringing in a lot of old people. It added a element that surprised me, which was fun. I will say I can say I thoroughly enjoyed them more in this episode than I did in season 7. There was the comedic elements of it was actually great. It does bother me again. No Crosshair, Wrecker's headaches are going to be a problem. Yeah, I agree with you 100% on that, David. They're going to be a problem going forward. And like I already said, the constant involvement of recognizable characters is bothering with me, and the constant taking of Omega into dangerous situations as a child continues to fluster me as a dad. But overall, though, I did enjoy the episode, and I thought it was good. I would actually have to grade this one because, as you know, we do grade our episodes like we are in school. They get an A, B, C, D, or F grade. And for this, I'm actually going to go with a B+ on this one.
Okay. All right.
How about you, David? What did you think?
Right.
What are your final thoughts here on Decommissioned?
Yeah, I've liked each of the last 3 episodes a little bit more than the previous one. I've liked that. Cornered, enjoyed that. Rampage even a bit more, and Decommissioned even a bit more. I think just because of the beautiful visuals of Ord Mantell, Corellia. This animation is incredible. I'm just watching it, and the amount of work these people are doing is jaw dropping. So I love seeing that. I said that before, and I just want to credit all those people. That's hard work. Like I said, I love seeing the Bad Batch traveling to Corellia. I love seeing them on Ord Mantell. The action and battle scenes, like you said, just another comedic moment was one of Matthew Wood as a battle droid, and did we win? When that was another one, right? And then they're shooting at the police droids. So I agree with you 100%, Aaron. How can you not love, battle droids and super battle droids, and they're shooting at police droids, and clone troopers are shooting at all of them. Oh my gosh, so cool. The surprise reveal of the Martez sisters was a surprise. I like that. I like some surprises going. I didn't know when I first saw someone scoop up that head. I was not thinking about them at all. So I like a good little surprise here and there. The added layer of intrigue at the end of the episode, we talked about that. It's really gotten Star Wars fans, I think, having a fun time trying to figure out who that might be. And then, of course, I did enjoy this. I didn't mention it in my initial thoughts. I wanted to put it here in final thoughts. Getting to see Omega learn to block out distractions. And I'll talk more about attention, inattention, hyperactivity in my psychology corner. Also, I just wanted to briefly mention Hunter and Rafa, their interactions at the end of the episode. And you and I covered this several episodes. Well, we actually did it just before we started covering the Bad Batch. We did a whole episode of Star Wars reactions on the Alphabet Squadron trilogy, which ended with Victory's Price in coming out in March. But we reviewed it, and so there's spoilers here. So if you haven't read this, like I said, maybe just fast forward, maybe 3 minutes or something, not much. But because I'm going to share something kind of towards the end of the book. So sign off and come back on in 3 to 5 minutes. So here it is. Two of the main characters in the show is Yurka Quell and Soren Keyes, and they were both in the Empire together. They were both a part of Operation Cinder. Quell, obviously, over the course of 3 books, leaves the Empire and joins Alphabet Squadron, but it's a shaky relationship, and so on and so forth. I won't go through all the details, but towards the end of Alphabet Squadron, Victory's Price, there's a discussion between Quell and Keyes about the Empire, about the Rebel Alliance, about justice. Will the Rebel Alliance dish out justice in a good way, not in a revengeful way? And there's a bunch of other details, and like I said, listen in to hear how Aaron and I talked about it, and the Emperor's, messengers and the data systems. It's pretty cool stuff. But there's a line that Quell says about Soren Keys, and she says, quote, "I wish you'd been a better man," unquote. And I really thought about that at the end of this episode, where Rafa is looking at Hunter after, he's handed her the data stick, and he says, "I know you'll do something good with it." And I wrote in my show notes here, our show notes, Hunter is showing Rafa a better man, and I really, really like that. And Echo and his patience with Omega, teaching her how to fire that Zygerian energy bow, or I think that's what it's called. I might be messing that up a bit, but these are good men, Wrecker and Tech and Hunter and all of them, and even hopefully Crosshair. But I hope that this will continue to show that to people like Rafa and Trace. They saw it in Ahsoka, but if they could see it in some clones too, I thought that was a pretty cool message. But just a little tie-in to the Alphabet Squadron trilogy by Alexander Freed, which I enjoyed quite a bit. So there's some of my thoughts, and hopefully people are turning it back on right now, Aaron.
Absolutely. I better turn my mic on.
Oh, you know what? Your mic and I mentioned I need to do great. I'm going to do an A on this because I really liked all that stuff, and for all those reasons, I meant to do. Gotta forgive me. So I did an A, and Aaron did a B plus.
Yep, A and B plus, and I didn't want to interrupt you earlier, but when you mentioned Jason Fry, mentioning how small of a world it is. The only thing that popped into my mind was, "It's a small world after all." See, there's another one. Anyhow.
Well, there you go, folks. This is the price of admission. This is what you get for free.
Yeah, no charge here. So, yeah, let us know what you think of Decommissioned. We'd love to hear from you. Whether you hit us up on social media or email, that is awesome. We want to know how you would grade it, what you thought of the episode, and who knows, you may hear your thoughts on our next episode. So get them in. So, David, let's go psychology corner, my man. I hear you have something good for us today.
Big time, yeah. No, this is a subject that's, again, another diagnostic category here that affects a lot of people. I mentioned before in previous episodes that each of these episodes of the Bad Batch, I need to not jinx myself. They have really, laid it out on a platter for me each week to cover a different psychological issue. And this episode provided ample material for my psychology corner. And what I'm going to cover here is ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. So here's where the episode serves it up. It's at the very beginning. Aaron had mentioned it a little bit before, as in our coverage of this episode. But Echo's, he has a conversation with Omega in Sid's parlor there, and it's pointed to the importance of being able to block out or ignore distractions, especially in combat. She was struggling to ignore the clatter, made by that Ithorian and weak-way gamblers. Again, Aaron mentioned them and the distraction that they provided, as she's trying to hit the target. Later on, it's cool to see Omega. She was able to block out all of that stimuli in the battle, all those battle droids, all the police droids, laser bolts flying everywhere, and Aaron feels so good about her being there and safe and so. I'm just teasing, but she's able she's able to block all that out, and she focuses, and she even says that to Trace, and it helps the escape happen. So, it kind of bookends the way the writers did it. At the beginning, she's struggling to block out distractions, and at the end of the episode, she's working hard to focus and block out all that stimuli and all the distractions. So it brings up this issue that I've worked with for years with children and adolescents, and now, and I'll give you all of our listeners a little twist on how it's come back to the forefront in my work with a geriatric population. So that's my older clients that are in their 60s, 70s, 80s, and I've had a kind of a little bit of an influx of clients over 90, which is pretty cool. So let's start with it. Again, you heard me mention it just a minute ago that ADHD is an acronym for Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder. In the DSM-5, I've mentioned this in previous episodes, that stands for the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, 5th edition. It's used by psychiatrists, psychologists like myself, social workers, etc. What I want people to know that there's 3 diagnoses under the rubric of ADHD. There's ADHD combined type. That's where that boy or girl has symptoms of inattention, but they also have symptoms of hyperactivity and impulsivity. The second diagnosis under that overall rubric is ADHD predominantly hyperactive impulsive type. And I've worked with these kids where, as a teacher, I've talked to many, many teachers in public and private schools where the boy or girl is hyperactive, impulsive, moving about the room. The teacher asks a question, asks the kid a question, and he or she answers it. So they're not inattentive, but they're hyperactive, impulsive. So those are those kind of kids. The third one, which is really kind of known more as ADD, okay, but that is actually officially called ADHD predominantly inattentive type. And these are, excuse me, these are the kids in class who they are inattentive, but they're not distracting the boys and girls or the teenagers next to them. They're sitting there pretty quietly, but the teacher doesn't know unless they specifically ask a question. You know, that the kid might be looking up at the board, looking at the teacher, but that teacher doesn't know that the information they're conveying, for the most part, is not going in. So I just wanted, our listeners to know that first and foremost. ADHD combined type, ADHD predominantly hyperactive impulsive type, and ADHD predominantly inattentive type. Okay. Now, to help diagnose this, and I'm not going to go through all of these, people can look these up and so on, but there are 9 symptoms of hyperactivity, okay, and there's 9 symptoms of inattentiveness. And so if people meet 6 of 9 in each of those, that would give them combined type, okay, just for a simple example. Now, something I wanted to share here, and again, just making our listeners good psychologists. That's what my professors taught me when I was getting my graduate degrees. Provide a safe place to vent, always support your clients, make them good psychologists. So we're making our listeners good psychologists. And it's this, a real subtlety, but it's huge. It's perhaps the item to me that really, it's where the rubber hits the road and it conveys the core of ADHD. And it's this is a symptom within inattentiveness. And I want to read this to our listeners. Quote, often avoids, dislikes, or is reluctant to engage in tasks that require sustained mental effort. Let me explain this. Often avoids, dislikes, or is reluctant to engage in tasks that require sustained mental effort. Why do I point that out? The reason I do is because for years and years, I've worked with teachers, I've worked with parents, etc., where they'll say to me, David, my son or daughter or the student, he or she can focus on this for hours and hours at a time. And I said, that's fine. That's not the point. What teachers want to see, parents, right? I've talked to tons of teachers, tons of parents. And what I want to see as a clinical psychologist is, can that boy or girl, can that teenager, can that adult, can they focus on things that they don't want to focus on? That is what I want to see, right? Because you have to do it in school. Inevitably, no matter what subject matter you like, if you like English more than math or vice versa, or geography or any of the biology classes or whatever, as students, all of us, listening here, and Aaron and I, we all have subjects we're good at and we struggle at. But can we focus on subject matter that we're not as good at? It's the same thing when we're adults. we might love our jobs, but there's always aspects where it's like, oh my gosh, I got to focus on that for how long? And as adults, we have to do that. We have to focus on things that we don't want to focus on. And so that's why I really wanted our listeners to hear that item. Often avoids, dislikes, or is reluctant to engage in tasks that require sustained mental effort. I want to see people who can focus on things that they don't like that require sustained mental effort. Okay, so that's huge. Now, I will say this. Because of all these symptoms of hyperactivity and inattentiveness, ADHD, I've said this for years, it's the antithesis of academic performance. It just truly is. It's not listed as a learning disability, probably should be, because of how much it affects academic performance. It negatively affects job performance and the ability to keep a job. I've talked to many young men and women where it's just deep sixed their ability to do the job, and they go job to job to job to job to job. And it also can end marriages. I've seen situations where one spouse has it or both, and I've had to work really hard with those couples to keep that marriage together. I will say this, and I want people to know this. When we're trying to diagnose ADHD, we want to rule out depression and anxiety as possible causes of inattention. Again, going back to the DSM-5 that I mentioned a few minutes ago, under depression and anxiety, there are items, diagnostic criteria that convey inattentiveness. Depression and anxiety cause inattentiveness. And I've talked to many teachers where that boy or girl in the classroom is not inattentive because of ADHD. They're inattentive because of depression or anxiety. Okay, so that's a critical rule out. The other rule out is learning disabilities, like I mentioned a minute ago. And they are possible causes of inattention and hyperactivity in kids in different classes. I have talked before, I think I didn't check Aaron, I think it was in one of the Mandalorian season 2 episodes, I talked about the 3 different learning disabilities. But people can go back and scroll through there and look at show notes and see where I talked about that. One of the last things I want to mention, and I mentioned there's a bit of a twist with, I went from working with people 50 and under, right, children, adolescents, adults, to now I work with a geriatric population, and they're, in essence, 60 and up. I mean, most really truly are 65 and up. But here's the interesting thing. I've always, for years have worked with teachers and parents about the controversy of medication in children and adolescents. And I can talk to the cows come home about that. But I wanted to kind of share this little twist that we've been dealing with where I work, the psychiatrists that I work with, the other therapists that I work with, is that I work, and it's kind of Aaron knows where this retirement community is, and I work in it, and it's a very active retirement community. And part of the challenge is when you have persons that are 60, 70, 80 years old, they would like the energy of being 20, 30, 40 years old. Now, in our country, we've tried to bottle energy. How? Well, Pepsi, Coke, energy drinks, right? Monster, Red Bull, you name it, Rockstar, all those kind of things. We've never really been able to, bottle the energy that you see in children. It's just like, I so want it, and I get why adults say it. I want just a fraction of that energy. Well, in our retired population, one of the things that we've had to deal with is these adults coming in claiming that they have adult ADHD, okay? Because they're looking to get a prescription to a stimulant medication, right? Stimulants can give you energy, they're appetite suppressants, stuff like this. However, here's the problem with giving a stimulant to persons that are in the geriatric population. Stimulants not only, increase attention, in kids in school, and it not only is an appetite suppressant, but it's a stimulant. So it will speed up your heart rate, and that can be very dangerous with the cardiac issues that some of our older patients have. So this has been a thing to try to rule out adult ADHD. Now, it does exist, and one of the rule outs is this, and I'd mentioned there's 9 symptoms of hyperactivity, 9 symptoms of inattentiveness. Another aspect of diagnosing ADHD is, has there been symptoms of any of that, inattention, hyperactivity, before that person was 12 years of age? And a lot of times that person will look at us and, they don't really remember if they did or not. Now, it's interesting because the diagnostic criteria has changed a little bit. When I was coming up in grad school, it was, is there data of hyperactivity, impulsivity before that male or female was 7 years of age? They bumped it up to 12. Not quite sure why, but that's one of the things I look for, and it's always good to talk to spouses as well, to see if there's any of that. And if there's no data for any of those symptoms before the age of 12, it's probably the case that they do not have it, that they're just trying to, what we call drug seeking, and they want a stimulant for energy to be able to be more active, which I understand. I understand they want to, but we just really try to protect people by not giving persons medications they shouldn't have. Now, I could talk at length about ADHD even more than this. I wanted to give our listeners a feel for it. But in sessions to come, I'll do other aspects of ADHD, as well as OCD, which we've covered this year, and so on and so forth. So we'll keep bringing these different issues around. I can't do it justice, but hopefully our clients have a much better understanding of ADHD after this psychology corner.
Very good. Very good. I know I do. Very good. Love it. So, oh, geez, I just lost my train of thought.
That's okay.
Great.
I'm talking a long time here, and I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Squirrel.
You need medication.
All right. So, karabast. So, there we are, folks. That takes care of David's Psychology Corner. Thank you, David. Love it as always. I always learn something when you do these corners. I love them. So, yeah. What did y'all think of David's Psychology Corner? What did you think of the show? Let us know. You can always hit us up on any of our social medias. That, of course, would be Facebook, SW Reactions, Instagram, SW Reactions, and, of course, Twitter. My mind is not working tonight, David.
Karabast.
Oh, my gosh. Twitter, SW Reactions Pod, or, of course, email us show@StarWarsReactions.com. Also, of course, you can hit, oh, my gosh. Karabast.
This. I hope our listeners are laughing. This is such an example of ADHD, my friend. No, I'm teasing. This is
Yes.
This is tired. This is being tired.
No, this is me remembering that I have something I wanted to mention after that. After I went through all of our social media stuff, because let us know what you think through our social media accounts or our email, because like I've said earlier, you could end up with hearing about your comment on the show, which brings me to a comment we got on our last episode, Rampage. Remember when we discussed Rampage, one of the things we were discussing, David, was the how this elite group of supposedly the best clone force in the galaxy that had never been beaten is now struggling to even win anything.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, what's going on with them? Why can't they just, have they lost their touch? And we discussed that on the show. We actually got a comment on Twitter, which really hit the nail on the head. And I even responded, I'm like, I don't know why I never thought of that before. This is from Daniel Sloan on Twitter. He said, could the reason the Bad Batch is getting caught a lot have to do with the fact that they are fighting sentient beings now instead of droids, who would be more predictable? Makes perfect sense to me. I don't know why I never thought of that before.
Well said. Well said.
So well said. Thank you, Daniel, for throwing that out there for us, because that definitely is a very, very good observation. So thank you. So keep letting us know what you think of the shows there. David, if they want to talk to you about Star Wars or about your Psychology Corner, or about anything, how would they go about doing that?
Absolutely. 2 places. We were just talking about Twitter. It's at David_Modders, Modders. There's an S on the end. Then the email. It's david@StarWarsReactions.com.
Very good, very good. And if you want to talk Star Wars with me, or just talk about karabast moments, I'm full of them. The best place to do that would be Twitter at TAHarris121079, or of course you can email me, Aaron@StarWarsReactions.com. All right, David, my friend, this has been fun as always.
Absolutely, man. Really good time, and hope the listeners enjoyed it, and the discussion of Decommissioned, as well as learning a little bit more in the Psychology Corner.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you, everybody, for listening in and tuning in and supporting us each week. We appreciate each and every one of you. We're thankful for you. We continue to pray for each and every one of you, that y'all are doing well, staying healthy, and everything's getting back to normal for you. So take care. Until next time, remember, this is your place for elegant discussion for a more civilized age.
If you'd like to share your thoughts, you can email us at show@StarWarsReactions.com for our show notes and the latest news from the Star Wars universe. Visit our website at www.StarWarsReactions.com. You can also follow us on Twitter at SWReactionsPod, or on Facebook at Star Wars Reactions. If you enjoy our show, please leave a review on iTunes. This podcast is not endorsed by the Walt Disney Company or by Lucasfilm Limited. It's intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. The official Star Wars website can be found at www.starwars.com. Star Wars. All names, sounds, and any other Star Wars related items are registered trademarks and or copyrights of Disney and the respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of Star Wars Reactions unless otherwise indicated. Star Wars Reactions. Elegant discussion for a more civilized age.